I've worked on sculpture all my adult life, but I never had the chance to make an exhibition about sculpture in a building that was called the quarry, La Pedrera. So I was immediately interested in using the place and talking about the stone columns and thinking about this place as both a sculpture and a quarry. We could make a group show of sculptors who were working with stone in the later 20th century, because it was quite different from the early 20th century. They had become more relaxed, they had become older, and they became much more experimental. It was a nice chance to think of which artists were working together at the same time. And I've worked a lot on Barbara Hepworth, so of course she was a starting point. But after that, we wanted to put her next to Henry Moore, who was her contemporary, and then to think about other artists that they knew at the time. They were very close to Naum Garbo, who spent the wartime with them in England, and also with Arp. They visited Arp's studio in Paris. So Arp was always a reference point for them. And then it was possible to think of sculptors who were maybe not so very often put in the same group, but in fact were the same age and working in the same way, like Louise Bourgeois and Noguchi, and here in Spain, Chillida and also Tota. So we had a group of 8 sculptors who were more or less the same age, and who all at the same time in the 1960s went to Carrara, more or less, and discovered the stone in Carrara, discovered the amazing skills of the technicians, and started to make a whole new generation of sculpture. Well, I think there's a big change. In the early 20th century, partly because of Brancusi, sculptors were very keen to do their own work and to work with local stone and to keep everything in their own studio. But they become more relaxed when they become older, and also they become more famous. And they become more aware of how technicians can help them. And when they go to Carrara, they discover that Italian technicians in Carrara are incredibly skilled. So Henry Moore can make a small maquette like this and give it to the technicians, and they can make it very large. Or a sculptor like Louise Bourgeois, who was not a carver herself. She worked with these technicians in Carrara and discovered what they could do. So she could make amazing forms which could be transformed into stone. So it's a very different approach, and really that's what's new about this show, is that we're looking at later 20th century carving, when sculptors had no inhibitions anymore. They were free to make forms, and the technicians could do what they asked. I think we have a very good list of works, we've got good exhibits, and what is unusual about the show, I think 2 things. One is it's in the building called the Quarry, made by Gaudi and carved by many carvers from local stone, from local quarries. So it's a perfect location for an exhibition about stone. And then to have this group of 8 historic sculptors together is unusual. Normally they're not shown together. And I should mention that in the last section of the show, we have a group of more contemporary, younger sculptors who were making works in the 1980s and 90s, who were also discovering that stone gave them new freedoms, and they approached stone maybe in a more conceptual way. People like Febrer, for example, but also Wilding and Spalletti and others. We show that even for a conceptual artist at the end of the 20th century, stone was still a useful material. Well, I'm very pleased that we managed to open up the room so that you can really see the building now. You can see out of all the windows, you can see into the courtyard, which is like the quarry, and you can see the columns, which are like sculptures. So it's a special chance to see La Pedrera as a building, and then it's a special chance to see sculptures from all over the world, from America and all over Europe, which have been brought together for one unique time. They will never be together again.